After a mysterious unnamed virus takes out every human being, Philip Miller is the last man on Earth. He has been living alone for the past year and is driving around America to look for more people. He goes to every single state, making announcements to empty cities and stealing artifacts and paintings from museums. After the failed mission to find humans, Philip decides to return to his hometown, Tucson. Still, as the last attempt to find someone, he writes "Alive in Tucson" on every billboard he can find. In Tucson, he goes to his shabby apartment and packs up all the necessary stuff before making his way to a gated community in the more lavish part of the city. He chooses the biggest house and declares it his new home. He spends the next few days decorating the house with all the famous paintings, a mat from the White House, a dinosaur skull, Academy Awards, and many more artifacts worth billions of dollars. Every day before going to sleep, Philip makes sure to apologize to God for masturbating so much and wishes that he sees the face of at least one woman before his death. Thankfully, there are still a plethora of cars that he can use to drive around. He goes to the grocery store in his underwear and breaks in using a gun. In only a year he has completely forgotten basic decency now that he has no one to impress. He also does everything that was just an impulsive thought before the virus, like destroying the pile of cans in the store and bringing hundreds of adult films home. To pass time, he plays racquetball with himself, uses lamps and aquariums as bowling pins, and crashes cars onto each other. The chaos makes him feel a hint of adrenaline and helps him cope with loneliness. After about a month, he starts to lose his sense of sanity. Moreover, being alone on his birthday reminds him of everything he failed to appreciate when life was normal. He misses his mother, his life, and humans in general. The scene cuts to a few months later. The grand mansion Philip lived in has turned into a dumping site. It is filled with plastic and cans that he never cleans up because there won't be a meaning to it anyway. He hasn't showered in days and has started living like an animal. The house lacks running water and the toilet is covered in plastic bottles. So instead, Philip makes a hole in the springboard and uses the pool as his toilet. He also fills a kid's pool with margaritas and bathes in it while simultaneously drinking from it. Then, one day, he goes to the bar and draws faces on balls, assigning them a name and personality. He talks to them like they are his real friends just to feel like he isn't lonely. At night, he brings a ball named Gary to a clothing store and hits on a mannequin that he has a crush on. When her arm breaks, Philip loses his mind. He decides that he doesn't want to live anymore and goes to the nearby hill to commit the unthinkable. He wishes farewell to all his ball friends, promising to remember them for eternity. Then, he gets inside his car and drives towards the hill at full speed. Suddenly, he sees smoke rising far away and stops the car seconds before it crashes. Philip can almost not believe his eyes. He immediately follows the smoke and reaches a trailer that is clearly inhabited by a person. Then, he notices something he had been begging to see for the past year. Someone has left their bra to dry in the sun. Philip smells it and is so overwhelmed that he falls unconscious. When he wakes up, he sees a beautiful girl holding him in her lap. She seductively promises to fulfill his wishes and kisses him. Philip is enjoying the kiss before he wakes up and realizes he was dreaming. The girl in front of him is less attractive and older. She is performing CPR on him to bring him back. They pull away from each other, weirded out on seeing another human after so long. Philip asks her where the beautiful woman is until she points out he should be worried about his wet underpants instead. It turns out that he peed himself when he was unconscious. Even in a situation like this, Philip claims that he was swimming from the front side earlier, which is why his underpants are wet. He aggressively starts explaining that he did not pee himself, which makes the girl panic. She brings out a gun, asking him to stay away. Philip finally admits that he did in fact pee and is embarrassed. After both of them calm down, they introduce themselves. The girl's name is Carol. She used to be an analyst before the virus and has been wandering around America after everyone died. She saw the "Alive in Tucson" sign and came here to see if she really is the last person alive. Although Philip had been dying to meet a woman, he isn't very excited to see Carol. She repeatedly corrects his grammar, doesn't understand his jokes, and keeps talking about irrelevant things. After talking for a while, they decide to drive to the grocery store. On the way, Carol complains about him crossing the stop sign. Despite Philip arguing that there is no traffic, she remains adamant that they have to follow the rules or else they will start living like an animal. To make her feel better, he stops at a sign and looks to both sides, confirming that no one is crossing the road. Her nagging doesn't stop when they reach the grocery store and Philip parks in the handicap spot. They get into their fifth argument of the day with Philip insisting that the imaginary handicapped person has a lot of space to park his car. When Carol still urges him to park somewhere else, he runs the vehicle into the store. Following that, she goes to take a tour of his house and is disgusted by the way he lives. He has 2 swimming pools, one filled with feces and the other with garbage. Carol also accuses him of stealing the paintings even though he argues they didn't belong to anyone anymore. By the end of the house tour, Philip asks her to go back to her campsite. The next morning, he is woken up by Carol cleaning up his house. She nags him to get gardening and cleaning supplies from the store because they have to start living like human beings. At night, Philip goes to his ball buddies and complains about Carol. Even though he has only known her for a day, he feels like they are a married couple who desperately need to get a divorce. The following morning, things get worse for him as she moves into the house next door. He tries to shoo her away but Carol, being Carol, is stubborn. She asks him if he is scared of being seen naked and as a reply, Philip takes off his pants. Carol finally addresses the elephant in the room and brings up the topic of reproduction. She thinks they are the chosen ones who have been given the duty to repopulate the earth again. Philip says that he wouldn't sleep with her even if she was the last woman on earth, which is true in this case. In the next scene, he is in his outdoor toilet when Carol approaches him. She wants him to find a way to get running water to their house. That way, they can grow tomatoes and other fruits. When he refuses to help, she tries to bribe him with fresh tomatoes but he doesn't care. However, when it gets dark, he breaks into her garden and eats all of her vegetables. Carol knocks on his door the next morning and finds him covered in leftover tomatoes. Philip still claims that he isn't the one who stole them. He also notices Carol has hurt her leg while trying to transfer water to her house from a manhole. A few days later, she gives up on trying to live like a decent human. Philip finds her making an outdoor toilet in a fountain, copying his swimming pool toilet. Carol thinks that they might not be the chosen ones but the forgotten ones who have no purpose in life. They are in no way capable of creating an entire human civilization when they cannot even arrange a toilet in their million-dollar mansions. Philip, who is used to seeing Carol as an optimistic person, feels awful for her. Hence, he goes to the city's water tank and arranges a way to water Carol's garden. She is finally happy to see a good side to him and invites him to dinner. At night, Philip enjoys an organic meal after a long time. The topic of sex is brought up and Philip says he is ready to sleep with her now. However, to his surprise, Carol doesn't want to make love before marriage. Initially, Philip laughs, thinking that it is a joke, but she turns out to be serious. Even though the idea is ridiculous, he proposes to make her feel better. At last, they decide to get married the next day. In the following scene, they are in church saying their vows. Philip thinks it isn't necessary but goes with the act anyway. When they step out of the church, they are welcomed by a crowd of guests. Philip realizes he has made a mistake and screams. Then, he wakes up on his bed, thankful that it was only a dream. He even has to check out the window to ensure that most of the world is still dead. A while later, Carol comes to his house with food. She thinks they should elect the President of the United States by voting. It is useless but Philip elects himself and becomes the president unanimously. Then, the two enjoy spaghetti and raisin balls, which Carol thinks is a good alternative to meatballs. Following that, the day of the wedding finally comes. Carol prepares the decorations and cake while Philip is tasked to get rings for them. However, instead of getting the rings, he throws a bachelorette party for his ball buddies, setting fire to random things in a parking lot. He even goes to say goodbye to the mannequin, telling her that she will always remain the love of his life. At the end of the day, he goes to the church where Carol has prepared a recording that will officiate their wedding. After brief vows, it is finally the time to exchange rings. This is when Carol discovers that he didn't get them. She realizes she is the only one putting effort and calls off the wedding. Later, Philip knocks on her door, trying to talk to her but she doesn't reply. Hence, he breaks the front door with a hammer and enters the house. To his surprise, she has actually put in an effort to decorate it. She has even prepared a cake for them with his statue on top. Philip feels awful about what he did and apologizes to her. He also reveals that he doesn't really like her personality or the food she cooks, but even so, he is glad that she exists because, without her, he would not be alive right now. With that being said, Philip brings her out to do something special. In the following scene, they go to a jewelry shop where Carol gets all the rings she wants. They finally officiate the wedding and are declared husband and wife. At night, the two make love, but the experience is not how Philip thought it would be. Carol cannot stop talking throughout the night, making strange remarks that she thinks are hot. The next morning, she finds him playing racquetball in his home. Philip thinks she is going to nag him again, but to his surprise, she joins him in the game. They enjoy the rest of the day doing things like Philip normally does. They make fireproof suits and set each other on fire, run a bulldozer over beer cans, and go to meet Philip's ex-girlfriend who is a mannequin. Carol talks to her for a while before beating her up for hitting on her husband. For the first time, Philip is glad that he married her and thinks that their life might be tolerable. As they are driving back home, they suddenly hit a limo on a junction. Shocked, Philip runs to the car and sees a beautiful woman come out of it. Just when he thought he was happy with his wife, he starts to regret their marriage. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.